Finally, Chelsea have won a game. Finally, we have won a game. After 3 straight losses and 4 games without a win, Chelsea have finally gotten a win in the UEFA Champions League last night against Jose Mourinho's Benfica. It doesn't matter how the wins actually comes, but what was more important was the 3 points that Chelsea actually got in order to keep their Champions League hope alive from qualifying into the next round from the group phase of the competition. Looking at the selection Enzo Maresca actually put up for against Benfica last night, personally, I was scared when I saw the selection. Prior to the video I previewed for that particular encounter, Chelsea versus Benfica last night, there was no clear information about certain players not being available in that particular game. The likes of Joao Pedro, the likes of Reece James. It was just some minutes to kick off that I got to know that Reece James, Joao Pedro, and even Moses Caicedo were about 50% fit for that particular game, of that particular encounter. Now, looking at how Enzo Maresca set up the team and the selection he actually made in a traditional 4-2-3-1 formation rather. In goal was Robert Sanchez. The fullback was Malo Gusto and Marc Cucurella. The centre backs was Trevor Chalobah and Tosin Adarabioyo. The 2 defensive midfielder was Moses Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. While the attacking midfield trio, the left wing was Alejandro Garnacho. The central attacking midfielder was Facundo Bonanote, and the right wing was Pedro Neto. Up front was Tyrick George. That was where I actually thought to myself, I said, what is Enzo Maresca doing? What is Tyrick George doing up front? For those of you that actually followed me in the watch along of that particular encounter, I actually said it, that if Tyrick George was this good of a player, and if Tyrick George was actually in Enzo Maresca's plan, why was the club about to sell him in the transfer deadline day? And if not that time was against the paperwork in that particular deal, as we speak, Tyrick George would be a Fulham player. But after that deal didn't go through, Enzo Maresca has preferred Tyrick George. In some matches we have actually played, Enzo Maresca has preferred Tyrick George over Alejandro Garnacho and Jimmy Gittins. So last night, Benfica actually started the game pretty well. And in the early minutes of that particular encounter, in the first half, we got a scare from Benfica after Marc Cucurella lost possession almost close to the center half of the game. And when Benfica took the ball, they went with full attacking threats. And when the ball went to the left side and the player strike, Robert Sanchez was actually equal to the task, and with a strong right hand, it was Benfica's first corner of the night. The game continued, and Chelsea came into the game with full confidence, and the way Chelsea actually played was beginning to resonate a bit of hope in that particular encounter. And Chelsea, through a beautiful cross from Pedro Neto, delivered the cross right into the box of Benfica, and Alejandro Garnacho with quick foot actually connected that ball, and it was deflected into the net from Rosario, talking about the Benfica midfielder. And that was how Chelsea took the lead in that particular encounter. The first half of that game ended 1-0 in favor of Chelsea. And coming into the second half, I was looking at how Chelsea was going to kill the game in order to avoid those silly kind of mistakes that we usually actually make in the second half of the game, just the way it happened against Brighton. So I was like, if those guys are in the bench, then they should be the one that should come in and actually kill the game. But not to forget, in the first half of that particular game, the 3 attacking midfield trio, talking about Pedro Neto, Facundo Bonanote, and Alejandro Garnacho in the left wing. Anyway, fair play, they had a very decent game, the 3 of them put together, but there was the flair wasn't there. The link up of play was not actually there for the players to actually make things happen. And Tyrick George, that was actually used as a false 9, was actually dwindling at all times towards the left, knowing fully well he's a left wing player. And so Tariq George was not quite in the game. So in the second half, after 50 minutes of play, in the 54th minute, Enzo Maresca makes some tactical changes and brought in Gustavo William and Pedro Neto, taking out Facundo Bonanote and Alejandro Garnacho. And I must say, Alejandro Garnacho have a very good impact in the game. Take or leave it, it was his effort that actually gave Chelsea that goal. And so, when Alejandro Garnacho, when Gustavo William and Joao Pedro came into the game, with Gustavo William, we begin to see some kind of flair from the Brazilian 18-year-old guy. And believe me, Gustavo William is an excellent footballer. Anytime, any day. We actually saw the attacking threat that Chelsea actually put up. All Chelsea was doing was to ensure the game is actually killed out completely before any threat will begin to come from Benfica. Chelsea possessed the game at one point with a ball possession of 68 to 32 against Benfica. But then the Benfica defense line still held their own, very strong, composed and well organized, knowing fully well the man behind, knowing fully well the man at the touchline that is actually doing all of this, talking about Jose Felix Mourinho. And late in the game, in the 85th minute, Benfica began to come up with some kind of threat against Chelsea, but all to no avail, as Chelsea defense line was actually equal to the task and went on, and Chelsea went on to actually won the game by a goal to nothing, but not without a traditional trademark red card. Chelsea actually saw red in that particular game. Joao Pedro came in the 61st minute. In the 62nd minute, he was actually given a yellow card. And in the 90th plus 6 minute added time, Joao Pedro got the second yellow and was actually sent off. So 10-man Chelsea defeated Jose Mourinho Benfica by 1-0. Now, looking at the team performance generally, in as much as Benfica never actually posed much of a threat to the Chelsea setup, I mean, top notch, I must say, Robert Sanchez in goal was excellent last night. The only time he was called on duty, he was actually equal to the task with a strong right hand to actually pull off that save. One man again in the center back that I must give credit to was talking about Trevor Chalobah. Trevor Chalobah came into the game fully confident and wanted to redeem his image with what he did against Brighton and Hove Albion that actually saw Chelsea lost that particular encounter. And last night, I must say, Trevor Chalobah was actually solid at the back of Chelsea defense line. Badiashile got his first start of the season, having come back from injury. And decently, Badiashile have a very good game last night. Talking about Marc Cucurella, ever present at that left back, never disappoint. Marc Cucurella also last night has a decent game all through. And one man in the midfield, talking about Moses Caicedo, rock solid, the midfield general, the maestro in the art of Chelsea football. If reports have it that prior to the start of this game, that Moses Caicedo was just 50% fit going into this game, but yet the manager selected him alongside Enzo Fernandez, and Moses Caicedo went on to add this wonderful performance. Then a fully fit Moses Caicedo is a machine in the midfield, and that is what Chelsea have been getting from the midfielder ever since he actually regained himself as the player we bought from Brighton and Hove Albion, winning tackles and also area duels. I mean, Moses Caicedo was actually excellent last night. Not to take anything away from Enzo Fernandez that actually captained the team into the field. I mean, Enzo Fernandez also had a very good game. I mean, dictating play in the middle of the park when Facundo Bonanote was still in the game. Enzo Fernandez was just in the middle of the park, dictating play and calming the tempo or maintaining the tempo of the game. It was good to see Chelsea came alive, maintained focus, high concentration in the defense line, and Chelsea went on to win that particular game by a goal to nothing. And currently in the UEFA Champions League table, Chelsea currently sits 17. With that 3 points, have made their way into the qualifying zone of this competition. So, and also talking about Alejandro Garnacho getting his start in the UEFA Champions League against Benfica. Alejandro Garnacho had a very decent game. Had a decent game coming into this particular game, I must say, and that has actually given Enzo Maresca some bit of homework to take, knowing fully well that this guy has it in him. His pace and energy coupled with that of Pedro Neto in the right side, was something that Chelsea needed anytime Chelsea are down to 10 men. Because when you have those players up there, the opposition team that have the numerical advantage will not want to come out fully, and that has been the mistake Enzo Maresca has been making. And respect to Enzo Maresca, in his press conference, actually admitted his error, that he has been making some kind of wrong decision that have cost Chelsea the game when anytime Chelsea went down to 10 men. But it was good to see generally the team actually performed very well, and I think this particular win will serve as a confidence to the team going into the Premier League encounter against Liverpool. And by the way, talking about Liverpool, Liverpool traveled to Turkey at Istanbul and were defeated by Galatasaray by a lone goal. And that is, now Liverpool have suffered 2 losses in a row. They lost their last Premier League game against Crystal Palace at the Selhurst Park, and they traveled to Turkey and lost in the UEFA Champions League. So this will be a kind of a confident boost for Chelsea going into this game, and we hope to see how this will play out. But I believe the players, having learned from their previous games, will begin to take it up from here and see how we progress in our season so far. So that was how the game actually went down last night at Stamford Bridge, as Chelsea defeated Jose Felix Mourinho on his return with Benfica in the UEFA Champions League. And if we take a look at the player rating in that particular game, out of 10, Trevor Chalobah at 7.7, followed by Enzo Fernandez that at 7.6, and Moses Caicedo and Badiachile at 7.4, alongside with Robert Sanchez. Generally, the team performance was good, and the average team rating was about 6.95 in that particular game. That shows Chelsea actually had a decent game last night, even though it was an own goal. But the pressure Chelsea actually mounted on Benfica was what resulted in that goal. And we must say kudos and a big ups and respect to Alejandro Garnacho for actually connecting from that cross, that actually connected the cross from Pedro Neto. So it was good to see Chelsea get their UEFA Champions League back on track. So what do you make of Chelsea win against Benfica last night, and who was your star performer in that particular game? Drop your thoughts down below. Let the conversation continue from there. Thank you very much for watching, and catch you in the next video. Bye.